Hello everybody! My name is MJ the Tutor, and you are listening to Accounting Makes Sense, an MJ the Tutor podcast. This podcast focuses on helping accounting students all over the world by offering a quick warm-up on various accounting and business topics that hopefully leads to the generation of bigger discussions and conversation. For all those studying or thinking about doing CIMA right now, this is for you. So, I was checking out what my most popular episode was on this podcast, and I was kind of surprised that the episode titled Case Study Exams 101 for the Overwhelmed Student stood at number 1. I guess I shouldn't really be surprised because, in general, it is hard to start something. It is hard to start somewhere, especially if you don't know what to expect. I hope that 101 is helping a lot of students out there. But it did give me a good idea to do another episode. This one is entitled Case Study Exams 102 for the Overwhelmed Student. You're probably wondering, so what are you going to talk about now in this episode? In today's episode, I'd like to hopefully cover questions like, what is a reasonable time frame to prepare for the case study exams? What skills do I need to practice so that I can pass the case study exam? Is there any new information since Case Study 101? Are you ready, students? So let's start. The first question I'd like to tackle is, what do I need to prepare for the case study exams? In 101, I spoke about the different levels of learners and that this ultimately determines what type of knowledge you carry as you go into the case study preparation. This is an important part of preparations, but learning or knowing the theoretical information is a good to have, but will not necessarily be the only thing you need to pass the case study exams. To answer this question more in a proper way, what you'll need with the preparation is to grab a hold of your pre-seen material. You need to understand the context of the case study exam that you're going to take. I've covered an episode talking about the pre-seen material in detail, but as an overview here, just understand that the pre-seen material sets the background and scenario for you, what you are to the company, what your job entails, and what is expected of you in this job. Let's start with the students who've recently just done the OTs, objective tests. The good news is, you've already started without you realizing it. Remember those theories and technical knowledge you've accumulated while studying for the OT exams? Well, I am here to tell you that you did not gain that knowledge in vain. You're going to need that knowledge as you take on the case study exam. I've mentioned this before in a previous episode as well, that there's some differing opinions about learning technical knowledge for the case study exams. I'm such a believer that one starts the case study journey whilst you're in OT. I think it's like riding a bike. Once you learn it, it's kind of hard to forget it. Anyways, so that is the natural starting point, the OT. Aside from that, if the pre-seen is already out or is being released soon, that is your next starting point. Of course, knowing the technical knowledge won't mean much without a business to apply it to. And so this is why getting hold of the pre-seen and thoroughly reading it will be your next step. Now, having said that the journey starts in OT doesn't mean that it's useless for gateway students. For those unfamiliar with the term, gateway students get exemptions on certain subjects on certain levels. Most of them get introduced to CIMA and have their first exam appearance for CIMA in a case study exam. So there's a lot to deal with here. Different ways of learning and studying, different approach to exam, technical knowledge you have, which you've literally skipped over. There will be some that you will know about and others which may be new information for you. I'm here to say that whilst it is admittedly harder, because I feel that it's all about using your preparation time wisely, it is certainly doable. Many students have been able to do it. The starting point for gateway students would be almost similar to OT students, except minus the time advantage. Gateway students will have to familiarize themselves with some of the technical knowledge whilst learning and immersing themselves into the pre-scene environment. Additionally, since CSE 101, the FLP has been introduced. So FLP is your Finance Leadership Program. So there are a couple of other students doing FLP, and these students skip the OT exams. They do go through the OT material, but not the exams themselves. It doesn't detract the path though, in that as an FLP student, you still have to go through the material and gain the technical knowledge that goes with it. So you would have to learn most of the theories prior to getting to the case study exam. Next question. What resources do we have? Well, there's a lot. There are free ones and there are paid ones. Both kinds are helpful and beneficial to students. There are, of course, some limitations to the free ones, but we'll discuss it further when I touch upon tuition providers. There are many debates on the DIY way and the tuition provider way, and I'm here to say that it's not just one way or the other. You can also incorporate a hybrid way if you want. I normally ask students to do an assessment on themselves. What are your strengths and weaknesses? If you are the type of students who can organize yourself and have the discipline to push yourself to the line, then you can probably go it alone. But if you're the other type of student where you know you'll need help and assistance, then you should probably consider finding a tuition provider to help you. I also want to say that since we don't know each other's financial situation, that can also play a part and factor here on whether you should do it alone, or if you do it with help, how much help can you realistically afford? There's a range too, so just bear that in mind. Having said that, I've likened the situation to someone who's fallen ill and may need a doctor to do an assessment and, a cure. The type of help will depend on your needs. You are likely the best person who will know what you need in terms of material and resources. So if you need study texts, then you should get those. And if you only need help with the mock exams, then that's what you should get. Again, in the medical example, if you have the flu, then you should probably take flu medicine so that you'll get better. On the topic of providers, most would provide a free version of what they offer. Just check out the websites and you'll find that the free ones will give you a taste of how good the paid materials will be. And you can base your decision from there. I do offer recommendations and I do have some on my website. So if you visit there, you can have a look what tuition providers are offering, and I'll leave it at that. Third question, what do we need to pass the exam? I think the usual, dedication, hard work, and determination. The thing here is that ultimately no one will be as invested in this as you will ever be. This is your future. I can say that as a tutor, I know we have influence in pushing students with regards to their studies. We care about what happens to the students, so we try to encourage them. I've yet to actually meet a tutor who actually sets out to fail students, so there's really nobody like that. Ultimately, though, the person that does the work, the one that puts in the time, the one that passes it, is the student. So I will say that it is dependent on how much the student commits to do this. Anyway, that is it for me today. This was another episode of Accounting Makes Sense, an MJ the Tutor podcast. I'm your host, MJ. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. I hope you found this beneficial for you as well as helpful in your CIMA studies. If you enjoyed this show, please hit subscribe or follow to catch the release of the next episode on whichever platform you are using. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and X under the name MJ the Tutor. You can visit my website, www.mjthetutor.com. Till next time, ciao for now.